We're going to convene the committee now. This is the Committee on Global Opportunities and a Creative, Innovative Economy. This is a public hearing of the committee regarding testimony on Bill number 150708 relating to the creation of the Task Force on the Philadelphia Music Industry. Clerk, would you please read the title of the bill?
Bill number 150708, an ordinance entitled Creating the Philadelphia Commission on the Music Industry.
Thank you very much. An amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee. Are there any remarks from the members of the committee? At this time, I'd like to note that we have a quorum. To my left is Majority Leader Councilman Curtis Jones Jr., Councilman Cindy Bass, and Councilman Blondell Reynolds Brown. Thank you very much. You can go. Is there anyone here to testify on the bill today?
Yes.
Would the clerk please call the first panel of scheduled witnesses?
Yes. Panel 1.
Okay. If there are any members of the public who would like to testify after the scheduled panel of witnesses, please sign up with Ms. Kong to my left, who is at that table. You'll be called in the order that you sign in.
Panel 1, Eric Sabo and David Allen.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you for coming. Your testimony is so important. As I explained, because of the time constraints and the fact that we have your written testimony and your actual testimony from our resolution previously, we are looking to get basically 4 minutes of the most important things that you have to say. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Again, I'm Eric Sabo. The 4 minutes I've got, it's all relevant.
Okay, let me say this. You don't have to rush. 4 minutes actually is a pretty long time. So what we'll do is we'll ask you to state your name, pull the microphone close to you. We are recording, again, your testimony, and then the clerk will identify when we've hit 4 minutes for you to wrap up.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, Councilman. I'm Eric Sabo. I'm a music, business, entrepreneurship, and technology professor at the University of the Arts. I'm also an adjunct professor over at St. Joe's University. I'm a professor as well, part-time over at the Art Institute of Philadelphia. Yes, I can. Sorry about that. So I teach at the Art Institute of Philadelphia as well. So what I wanted to discuss was the importance of creating a music task force here and how that would essentially present a unifying body that would connect all musicians from all genres from all over the city and could provide badly needed infrastructure to a thriving industry here in Philadelphia. So this music task force, with a composition of 15 members, representative of all or most of the sectors of the music industry here in Philly, would be more well-equipped to research, study, analyze, survey, report, and ultimately develop a strategic plan to establish Philadelphia as a music industry center. Creating this task force would make us more competitive with cities such as Nashville. Nashville has the Music City Music Council, which is an association of business leaders charged by their mayor to develop strategies towards heightening the awareness and development of Nashville as a global music city. Philadelphia needs to create a forum wherein these business leaders, artists, publishers, venue owners, and anyone associated with the music industry is welcome and invited to pool their resources and personal networks to investigate the obstacles and opportunities for the music industry in our city. This task force would be able to explore the tax benefits and incentives that could be created for budding musicians and larger artists who could perform here more frequently. Atlantic City is having that discussion now as they're exploring ways to attract more big-name acts, and tax incentives have been part of their conversation. States such as Louisiana and Texas provide tax credits. Louisiana has a sound recording tax credit. Texas provides live entertainment tax credits. This task force could look into those in other jurisdictions and look to those jurisdictions to learn what has worked and how it could be implemented and applied to Philadelphia. On top of that, the task force would be able to, in being comprised of varying business leaders, it would be able to explore the use of media in Philadelphia Airport and the SEPTA train stations, the subways, and we could use that media to support and promote the music heritage of the city. A music task force essentially is better positioned to explore creating a Philadelphia Arts Economy Trust Fund that could be used to fund more shows, to use our city parks to the fullest extent. This same body of people, as aforementioned, would endeavor in creating relationships with media and media businesses such as Comcast, Live Nation, AEG Live, and both internet and terrestrial radio. Creating this task force is a step towards resolving a serious accessibility issue within the music industry here in Philadelphia. Finally, a music task force would be able to research the marketing that other cities provide for the benefit of their local artists, and how creating some business infrastructure would be beneficial to all Philadelphia musicians and the industry itself. The task force would recommend better ways to fund musical arts here so that we're more competitive with cities like Austin, New York City, and LA. The task force would recommend ways to create art corridors, recommend ways to accommodate more all ages and all hour shows, and recommend other ways that would enhance the Philadelphia nightlife. Thank you for your attention to this issue, and I look forward to continuing our efforts on this matter.
Thank you very much. Would you please state your name and provide us with your testimony?
Good afternoon. My name is Dave Allen. I'm professor of marketing at St. Joe's, where I teach business recorded music and music marketing, among others. I have an MBA in marketing from St. Joe's, a PhD in mass media communication from Temple. Before I became an academic, I was in radio for 20 years, various roles in companies, most notably as a program director and general manager of Power 99. I'm here today to speak in support of Bill number 150708 to create the Philadelphia Task Force on the music industry. I will speak from two perspectives that I think I'm most qualified to address, academia and marketing. In my capacity as professor who teaches undergraduates with dreams of being in the music industry, I can safely say that their two biggest concerns are where to find a show tonight and where to find a job tomorrow. As to their first concern, my students want a safe and affordable place to hear live music, whether they're over or under 21. The Kemmel Center to Keswick, Philadelphia is blessed with more concert venues per square mile than probably any other city. And when Electric Factory concerts began, Live Nation has continued. Big and small acts come through Philadelphia in a variety of places, but most are pretty expensive for a college kid, spread out over large areas, and mostly are over 21. I urge City Council to look more for more under 21 venues as part of this task force, possibly in association with maybe the large number of universities that we have that are also in that square mile area. This would be a great avenue for local artists, no pun intended, especially to gain exposure and develop a local following in their hometown. It would also be nice to create a music district or avenue, much like Austin or Nashville, where the music plays 24/7. Austin recently commissioned the music census to assess the city's commercial music economy. We should also consider that. As to the second concern of the students, most of my students want to be able to intern or work in the music industry, but not necessarily as an artist or musician. Others have and will speak to the need to refresh and revitalize music performance. It certainly begins with music in the schools. I remember when I was general manager of Smooth Jazz 106, and we worked with Grover Washington Jr.'s wife, Christine, on Protect the Dream, on the naming and instrumenting of Grover Washington Jr.'s middle school. We need to do more of that. The return on investment in music programs at school is not only for the artists and musicians, it's for the future music entrepreneurs who learn here and want to live here after they graduate. From music industry programs, St. Joe's, University of the Arts, Drexel, Temple, we all do it pretty well. There are plenty of parts of the music industry that don't involve playing or singing. We have two great companies in Philadelphia that do music promotion, Fame House and CID Entertainment. We need to create an environment that encourages more companies like this to start music industry-related businesses and provide opportunities for our college kids to intern and work in the music industry in Philadelphia. The most recent article in the Wired magazine had Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine donating $70 million to USC. I don't think it'll take that much. But that kind of stuff led to innovation in that area in order for all parts of the music industry to rise. And I think this is a good thing. And as part of the quote, they said that the last 15 years of the record industry has been allowing itself to get pounded and not moving the ball forward. I think it's going to affect popular music. The next Prince might actually decide not to do music. And that would be a shame, but I think that's true. We need to inspire and incentivize the next generation of music industry giants right here in Philadelphia. It could and should be part of the city's focus on keeping our college graduates in Philadelphia after they graduate and not moving to New York or LA. Plus, there needs to be one central place to find these internships and jobs and co-ops, and possibly the creation of something similar to Philadelphia Film Office for music. In my capacity as a marketer, if you ask me what New York, LA, Austin, and Nashville have in regard to the music industry that Philly does not, probably not surprisingly, I would say marketing. It's easy to forget what we have done, are doing, and will do. We need to remind the world and ourselves that the sound began in Philadelphia, and that Fame, David Bowie, was recorded at Sigma Sound. And as I heard yesterday, disco was invented at Sigma Sound too, from Disco Inferno. So individually, each element of the music industry in Philadelphia, especially concert venues for the most part, do promote themselves individually very well. But what is needed is a focus and coordinative effort, one voice, if you will, that will be originating from one office. From the time that someone gets off a plane in Philadelphia International Airport or a train at 30th Street Station, they should hear music made in Philadelphia by Philadelphia artists. And when they leave, they should be able to take the music with them on an app with all genres of Philadelphia music, reminding them what they heard and while they were here and why they need to return soon. There should also be a coordinated, integrated marketing communication campaign that celebrates and promotes the many soundtracks to the cities, billboards, busbacks, and every form of social media should sing the praises of the Philadelphia music scene. Everybody knows that Philly loves you back. Now they need to know why they should come back, or more importantly, never leave at all. In closing, I would like to thank Councilman O for all he has done with the music industry in Philadelphia, and especially with this initiative to form this task force. I strongly encourage City Council to pass this, and I'd be honored to serve on the task force. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. I see we have a question from Councilman Blondell Reynolds-Brown.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. I have pushed my button initially to commend Councilman O for taking a comprehensive look-see at this, what I believe to be an enormous opportunity. In my personal opinion, I do believe we've lost some of our, I think the word is savoir-faire, when it comes to our position in the music industry compared to other cities, and to see the initiative to put Philadelphia back on the map when we now don't have the sound of Philadelphia as a landmark on Broad Street. Now we don't have the work of the work that Grover Washington and others has done. This is a step in that direction because it can bring, there is enormous opportunity when it comes to music, entrepreneurism, and all of what that means. So thank you for your testimony.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you very much. I would note that Councilman Blondell Reynolds-Brown, I think, is the only artist and performer, on City Council.
On that.
She's the only artist, maybe not the only performer.
They say when after you perform for so many years, the body does get old. We know a dancer's prime is like early 20s. Right. The body gets old, and then you teach. So I taught until I ran for office, and nice. I do miss it. Thank you, Councilman O.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Clerk, could you please call the next panel?
Aaron Levinson and Carvin Hagens.
I would note that they are both Grammy Award-winning producers. Right. Would you please identify yourself for the record and provide us with your testimony? I will again say that we're going to try to move through this, so there is a timer. If you hear it ring, don't be alarmed. Just kind of move to wrapping up. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carvin Hagens. Let me read my notes here. Make sure. Her name is Carvin Hagens. I'm a Grammy Award-winning songwriting producer. In my career, I've sold over 80 million records. My partner and I had the pleasure of revitalizing the music scene in the late 1990s, early 2000s. Also, we've been called the new Gamble and Huff, which is totally an honor. But through our career, we've employed a lot of producers, writers, and people who had a dream of being in the music industry, as well as discovering artists and giving them a career, such as Jill Scott, Music Soul Child, Floetry, Jeff Bradshaw, DJ Active. And we literally went in and worked with all of these people who at the time wasn't as great as they are now. And we were under the tutelage of Will Smith and Jazzy Jeff. But through the course of time, we had the opportunity to bring employment to these artists who are now touring the world with A-list artists and bringing income to the city. The issue is that most of these artists and producers, once they got fame, they had to leave because there was no love from the city and there was no support from the city. So most of these artists left. We also grown writers who had #1 hits on Usher and Will Smith, Justin Timberlake and Justin Bieber. The same thing. They left because there was no love from the city and no support from the city. So I support the task force because I believe that the task force will actually help bring that support. Most of the artists leave because radio doesn't give them the respect of an artist in Philadelphia or the notoriety as an artist in Philadelphia. So most of the artists that are here decide to go somewhere else where the art can be appreciated as well as their tax dollars. So I believe that putting this task force together, it can create that synergy, that love, and that excitement to be a part of the city, knowing that the city is a part of them. So I think that with the right moves of the task force coming together and building relationships with the venues that put these big artists on, will be willing to bring young aspiring artists and giving new artists that light, because with a new artist comes more income, and with more income comes taxable dollars, which can go to help all of the communities here in Philadelphia. I know at the time when Gamble and Huff was moving and doing what they were doing, they brought us Patti LaBelle and Teddy Pendergrass and Gamble and Whitehead and McFadden and Whitehead and Bunny Siegler and all of these great people, and those people still are here because they felt the love of the city and they still feel it. So I think that with this task force coming in, finding a way to have the radio bring a direct line of communication with the artists, the venues create a direct line of communication with the artists, and giving each one of them access, then that will also bring, again, income to the city and keep our celebrities here, which again will bring a great nightlife. When we look at Nashville and we look at Atlanta, we find that you may walk down the street and bump into artists, or you may go somewhere to eat and the artist may be sitting next to you. And that's what makes Atlanta and Nashville so exciting, because you never know who you may bump into. Philadelphia needs to create that same thing. We need to bring that back, because 10 years ago, I was sitting in a restaurant and Mr. Gamble walked right by the restaurant going somewhere. And it's like, wow, that's Kenny Gamble walking on Broad Street. So I think that once we get this love back, this task force come in and create that love for the artists, then the artists will stay here, which will bring tourism, which will bring more money into the city. And I just believe that the task force is the proper vehicle to create that.
Thank you very much. Would you identify yourself for the record and provide us with your testimony?
Yeah, my name is Aaron Levinson. I'm a faculty member at Temple University and University of the Arts, graduate of Philadelphia High School for Creative and Performing Arts. Once again, I'm honored to address the City Council and specifically contribute what I can in support of creating a task force regarding music makers and the city. We are all proud Philadelphians and are well aware of the historic nature of our home, both to our national identity and as a mecca for remarkable artists. One need only stroll down the southern entrance of this very building, and you will immediately be reminded of this legacy. Sadly, we have lost both Sigma Sound Studios and the headquarters of Philadelphia International Records in the very recent past. And while I personally lament the loss of these spaces, I, like each of you, am more concerned with the future of our hometown. Unlike New York, where real estate prices have reached unimaginable levels, we face an abundance of buildings that are in great need of repurposing. And in doing this much-needed revitalization, we raise the fortunes for all Philadelphians, both on an economic and on a personal level. We live in a post-industrial age, and the degree to which we can imagine, position, and ultimately execute a vision that is based upon, in part, a vibrant creative economy is in no small measure directly linked to the destiny of our entire region. There are many substantive proposals that can be and indeed need to be set in motion if we are to fully capitalize on our future. We have dynamic new enterprises in our midst, as well as existing giants like Comcast. But there is so much more that needs to be done, and not a moment can be wasted in reaching this new frontier. The commitment begins in the classrooms of Point Breeze and extends to the magnificence of Verizon Hall. We need to create artistic empowerment zones and offer creative and innovative new models of how talented musicians, engineers, composers, and producers can access our new land bank and find ways that in the public and private sector can invest together in transparent and efficient new enterprises. I have long admired the storied career of Kenny Gamble, who has used both his remarkable artistic talent and his extraordinary acumen as a real estate developer to help our city become the emerging urban oasis that it has in recent years. I personally think of his life and his quiet grace as a model for how we as a city need to address the challenges that we continue to face in remaking ourselves in an increasingly competitive global environment. We may not be the richest city or the fanciest city, but as a lifelong resident who was literally born on Broad Street, I can tell you this is a city of invention, of talent, and of imagination. And with credentials like that, all we really need to do at the most fundamental level is simply invest in ourselves. Thank you all once again for allowing me this moment to share my thoughts and observations, and especially to Councilman David O. for his commitment to this much-needed component for the plan for the future of Philadelphia.
All right, thank you very much. If there are no questions, there is a, oh, I'm sorry, see, I can't see the light. Councilwoman Cindy Bias.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of questions, and the first is, I just want to make a statement. This conversation is so timely for me. Just a couple of days ago, I was riding in a car with one of my nephews, one of my younger nephews, and we were having this conversation, and somehow Kenny Gamble came up, and I was trying to explain the influence and how big Kenny Gamble not only was, but is in Philadelphia, what he means to Philadelphia. And he just, the younger generation just didn't seem to know or to recognize. And as I explained, it was like, wow, really? Is that so? And so making sure that the people who have really been legendary and really helped to put us on the map, as well as you gentlemen and so many others, we need to make sure that they stay at the forefront. So I'm hopeful that that's what this commission will do. But I did have a specific question for Mr. Haggins. And you said that, you felt that a lot of artists leave because there's no love from the city. And as someone who, unfortunately doesn't have any musical talent, I don't even sing to myself, I wanted to know, what does that look like? What does, when you say that people leave because there's no love from the city, what does that look like? Because I can understand it when you say, parents may leave because they're upset with our school system, or I can understand it, where young people may leave because of the brain drain or, for other reasons. But tell me, what does it look like when, musical talent and artists leave us for in LA and New York, and what can we do to try to, strengthen that bond, make that tie more apparent? How do we keep them here? Because, as someone who's not a musician, I don't know what that looks like. So if you could give us some sort of idea.
Okay, in 2000, we created an artist by the name of Music Soul Child.
Yes.
Music Soul Child actually had to become a success everywhere else in the United States before Philadelphia even acknowledged his existence. So it was almost like he was a hit in Chicago and New York and Atlanta before Philly even decided to play the record. So we actually had an issue with Philly. We would go up to the radio station like, why are y'all not playing this guy? Like, he's hot all over the place. The record is on the Nutty Professor soundtrack. People were loving the record. And actually, Tiffany Bacon is the first person in Philadelphia that played the record. She did an interview with him and played the record in the interview, but it wasn't still added to radio. So when you get that type of treatment in the beginning, and then after he blow up, then Philadelphia's like, Philadelphia's own Music Soul Child. And he's like, you guys didn't like me when I was starting, and there was no love, so now it looks artificial. And so now Music Soul Child lives in Atlanta because of that reason. So it's like we don't embrace the artist in the beginning. Like we don't nurture that artist saying, wow, I see you trying. We have this big event with Jay-Z on the Parkway. We want to put you on the main stage to show the world that we have an artist here that's as great as a Beyonce, but she just don't have the recognition. So that's what it looks like, and I think that's the way we can heal it, by giving those options and opportunities to those artists.
Okay. Is there any influence by, because I know, like back in the day, and I'm again not a musician and not in the music industry, but just from my understanding, in terms of how your records are played, can you talk about that a little bit? Because as I understand it, there's much more influence from corporate in terms of whether your record gets played than the DJ.
Now,
so would that be influential in,
Well, I definitely believe it's all about the machine that's behind it and how much the machine is supporting you or what record label is supporting you. And, we've definitely heard words of paoli or payola, but I'm not certain that that's the actual idea. But I know it's a very hard task to get a record played on the radio versus when Gamble and Huff had I can't remember the guy's name right now. It'll come back to me, but he was the program director at WDAS, and literally they would go up to him and have new records and play it for him, and he would play it on the radio that day. Butterball. That's what I was trying to get, Mr. Butterball. They would take records up as soon as it was done and play it for him, and he would put it on the air that day. And that's what created a Philly sound, because it was made in Philly, played on Philly, and for those riding through would know what Philly sound like.
Right.
Today, Philadelphia sounds like Atlanta. That's sad.
I hear you. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
All right. Clerk, would you call up the next panel?
Bill Hansen and Craig White.
All right. Thank you very much. I understand that Bill Hansen may or may not be able to make it here, but in the meantime, would you please identify yourself for the record and provide us with your testimony?
I am Craig White. Pleased to be able to speak today, and I don't have a prepared statement, so I'll speak a little more informally, and a lot of what I'm going to say is probably going to piggyback off of testimony that we've already heard. But I think at the end of the day, and this has been mentioned several times, our key ingredient that I think a task force could really help address is synergy. I'm a transplant to Philly. I originally moved here from the New Jersey, New York area. Spent the last 20 years working for a couple of gentlemen named Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff. I was their studio manager and chief engineer for 20 years. And in that capacity, I'm in and out of the building on 309 South Broad Street every day. And it was always interesting, and it struck me very deeply that no matter what day of the week you pick, there would be some tourists from Japan, from Brazil, from India, from the UK, whatever, out in front of our building, posing in front of that building. So the sound of Philadelphia is, as we all know, is a worldwide phenomenon, but it was much more apparent to me that the influence 40 years later is still there. That's one point. Second point is, as has been mentioned, we are losing a lot of our historical musical landmarks. Unfortunately, 309 no longer exists. Sigma Sound no longer exists. Virtue Recording up North Broad Street, where a lot of the seminal stuff that created the sound of Philly later in Sigma Sound and in Philly no longer exists. Whether they failed for business reasons, out of vogue, out of whatever, they were not preserved. And that's something that I think that for the backbone of Philly, we need to preserve that. In my years here, I've also done a lot of work with the Grammy organization. I'm a past president of the Recording Academy, the Grammy chapter here. So therefore, I was able to be blessed with having a nationwide and a worldwide view. And as has been mentioned, Atlanta, Memphis, Nashville, 6th Street in Austin, 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica, LA, Sunset Boulevard in LA. All of these areas have one thing in common. They have city administrations that back and in some cases fund and give tax credits or other ways of funding things that occur in these cities. This is why they're successful, and that's why they will continue to be. So I think that at the end of the day, if we look at it from the grassroots level, we need small venues, and we need to support those venues so that the artists can develop. I'm a former musician. I would not be doing what I'm doing today if I didn't have the opportunity to perform, hone my craft, build a career, which then segued into the audio side, then segued into the production, that type of thing. It's a continuum that we have to help nurture in order for artists to be able to do what they do and then grow into entrepreneurs, studio owners, whatever the case may be. And yes, radio is a factor, venues are a factor, museums, there should be a Sound of Philadelphia museum that honors people in Philly, that continues that legacy, so that when you're riding in your car with your kids and you say Kenny Gamble, they have a place to go and understand who and what Kenny Gamble was, and Leon Huff and all the pioneers here in town. So I guess in closing, I'd probably just say thank you, Councilman O. I think the PHL Live initiative that you're doing, I had a great time judging the R&B competition last night. Good event, capacity crowd, good talent. These are the things we need to continue in Philly. And with the series that you're doing, and now with the proposal of the creation of this task force, I think we can really make some headway and get on par with those other cities.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There are no questions. Clerk, would you call up the next witness?
Bria Marie and Walt Anderson.
All right. Thank you very much. Would you identify yourself for the record with your name and just tell us a little bit about what you do and then provide us with your testimony?
Sure. My name is Bria Marie, and I am a humanitarian, entrepreneur, and recording artist. In 2010, I was drawn to the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection to go to Temple University and chase my musical dreams. As a 5-year resident and participant of the local music industry now, I've seen the wealth of seasoned and fresh talent that the city harbors. However, I've also seen the lack of support given to nourish those careers. It's time that we show some true brotherly love and sisterly affection to our homegrown musicians, artists, producers, and professionals, and we can start by creating a revolutionary city task force. As stated before, we have the talent, with established artists like Jasmine Sullivan and Marsha Ambrosius, who I believe still live in the city, or budding artists like Gogo Morrow, Brotherly Love, Chill Moody, Good Girl, Kid Felix, myself, and more. Producers like Carvin and Ivan, to Pop Wanzel, to Dilemma, and more. The best musicians in the world. We have the artists, producers, and the musicians to make the city a music town once again, but we need the support of the city to do so. A task force composed of individuals truly invested in the Philadelphia music industry could provide an inside look on the issues and work to create a resolution. A task force comprising a diverse group of professionals from nearly every position held, as proposed in the bill, would have the ability to cover all areas of this industry. By requiring them to develop a strategic plan within 1 year, we're ensured that there will be substantial steps taken in order to improve the state of our local industry and to work towards once again becoming the music industry mecca that the city deserves to be, one step at a time. While these steps may seem small at first, the results have the power to change our industry for the better, and in turn, change the city for the better. The economic opportunities are endless. Again, one brand alone has the ability to employ hundreds of people who pay taxes in the city of Philadelphia. One brand has the power to bring tourists to the city to see their performances, generating more income for the city's hotel and nightlife industries. One brand has the power to reignite the Philadelphia music legacy, drawing young artists like myself to become taxpayers in the city. By creating this task force, we are investing in ourselves and taking one large step forward to making Philadelphia great again. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Would you identify yourself for the record and tell us a little bit about yourself and provide us with your testimony?
Yes. My name is Anderson. I am a recording artist who writes and produces. I've appeared on MTV's Making the Band 2 and finished as a top 10 finalist. Following this accomplishment, I embarked on a solo music career and have opened up for artists such as Alicia Keys, Ashanti, John Legend, Marsha Ambrosius, and others. I've also written placements for Korean pop stars Seven and Big Bang. I think that creating this task force is very important. There's definitely a problem with the status of the music industry in Philadelphia today. To be the music mecca it is, I find it odd that everyone has to flock to either Atlanta or Los Angeles to make it or after they make it. There seems to be a cloud of no opportunity hovering over the city. Huge part of making things happen in the industry are those spur-of-the-moment impromptu situations that are hard to create when the people to create them with are never here. Another problem I noticed is that a lot of industry professionals don't tend to work out of major recording establishments much. They work in private settings, and I think bringing back the music excitement to the city will cause people to have a desire to work here, to be here, and to be in more studio establishments, attend more events, and look forward to creating magic from them impromptu moments again. We do have a lot that is good. I think we have a lot of top musicians, writers, and artists in the city, and we also have very great recording facilities. We don't have a lot of celebrities coming in and out of the city. For certain events, yes, but no one comes just to come. People may come here to visit family, possibly work on music, but it seems to be it. I believe that the more celebrities around, the more excitement. Celebrities enjoy visiting and moving to these other places. As much as the fame might annoy them, celebrities need to be seen. Philly is not simply just not the place to be seen right now. Yes, it's a good place to work with talented people and to do a show, but it's not the place to be seen. And I think making this city the place to be seen will take other efforts other than music sometimes as well. Other cities have Times Square, Hollywood Boulevard, they're filming reality shows, TMZ popping up anywhere, anytime is like a normalcy. This stuff is exciting to celebrities as well as artists and fans. Another thing that some of them have is great weather all year round, which we unfortunately cannot compete with. But Philadelphia can elevate the music industry in the city by coming up with ways to make Philadelphia the place to be seen. It has to become more than just a historical place to visit. When I speak to people that aren't from Philadelphia, all they usually want to know about is the Liberty Bell and where to get the best cheesesteaks. Other than that, maybe talking about the Eagles a little bit, but that's usually the end of the conversation. City Council can help elevate the music industry by continuing to do things like PHL Live. This is definitely a start. Also bringing more celebs to the city to be a part of things like PHL Live will help as well. More celebrity appearances at different clubs, events, fashion shows. Everything has to be exciting. I can go anywhere in LA, almost, and feel like I'll bump into a celebrity. And we need to create that feeling here, and I believe everything else will follow. I thank Councilman O and the efforts that you have me being a part of this task force and progressing the efforts of the task force. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much. Councilman Glendale Reynolds-Brown.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Councilwoman Cindy Bass.
Always struck and impressed but inspired by young artists who have their eyes on the prize. And I would like to know, you are both singing artists?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And what genre?
R&B.
R&B, hip-hop, pop
Yep.
feel.
Okay, and how did the two of you hear about this hearing?
Well, I work with Carvin Hagens, very closely with Carvin Hagens, and I also performed and worked with the PHL Live initiative. So I'm very well involved in this.
Okay.
All right, same here, and my manager, Kaisha Woods, works also closely with Councilman O.
Okay.
And I was a part of PHL Live, too, the initial kickoff.
Fantastic. So then look into a crystal ball. What's your goal?
Goal. Philadelphia has to be that city that it really is. There's so much talent in the city, and people have to be able to come here and say, this is where these huge artists, and I want to be one of those huge artists, that this is where they came out of, and people want to come back to the city and say, wow, I can be groomed sort of like they were. So it could be this huge thing, just as big as LA, just as big as New York. People want to do reality shows here and make the city huge. And we have all of the professionals to do it, the talent, the intelligence to do it.
Right
we just
here.
need something that everybody's coming together and
Yeah.
working and putting those ideas on paper.
Something to serve as the glue for all of this.
Yes,
Right.
ma'am.
And you, sir?
Like I stated before, when I visit Atlanta and I visit LA, I'm excited. I'm excited to be there. I'm excited to go there. I'm excited to network with people. And it's not the same feeling when I'm here. And I want to just be excited about Philadelphia again. Whether it happens in this lifetime or maybe we're starting something, that might create that in the future. I just would like to create that excitement here just as much as I and everyone else feels when they go to other places. It should be here too, because Philadelphia is definitely a music mecca, and there's no reason that the same excitement that I feel when I go there can't be generated here as well.
Well, if I understand the sponsor of this resolution correctly, the goal is to create a task force which then provides a strategic plan,
Yes.
which then provides implementation steps for making what you just said real.
Yes.
So ultimately, it really can rest with you and with us.
Yes.
Well, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I had a couple of questions, and I know, both of you alluded that, like in other places, it was, a lot more exciting, to be than in Philadelphia. And so, and about, that you can be anywhere and bump into celebrities and that sort of thing, and that part of the music industry. And I guess, like that's good. Everything's different for everybody. And so for someone, let's say like myself, like I'm not as much interested in bumping into celebrities, but I am interested in bumping into an artist, someone who just really loves their craft, loves their music, because, everybody's not going to be Beyonce, and I wish you well in your music career, and if you want to make it really big, and I'd love to be supportive and find out what we can do to support local talent to be big, but for those who want to be something smaller, but still make Philly that music scene, that music town, and to be known for, let's say, the jazz clubs in the neighborhood, that you can go to the clubs in the neighborhood, and hear really, really good music talent. And that draws other people from outside in.
Right.
And thank you. And also, things like that, things, whether it's jazz or whether it's, it's a spoken word and hip hop and R&B. We did a lot of that in my district over the summer months. We do a number of different music series where we do jazz in the park with live jazz. We had Jeff Bradshaw, who performed with Patti LaBelle. He came out to Morris Estates Playground and performed with us with a group of other artists, and that was fantastic. We do music in the park, which we do in Logan, Nicetown area, with all sorts of different local talent, all from Philadelphia, all homegrown, and people who are really just wanting to get up and to perform. And we do jazz, we do music, we do oldies in the park, which is not live, but it's with one of Philadelphia's legendary DJs, Gary Shepard, and we do music history, and it's a lot of fun, and people love the music, and so there's so much that we do, and we even actually did a classical music series this year for the first time in Mount Airy, which was very well received. People were saying, in certain neighborhoods, you're not going to get people to come out for classical music. Just wasn't true. People came out. And so my question is, how do you think we can build more of the infrastructure to have that music in the neighborhood sort of theme, if you know what I mean, to support local talent? And again, supporting the ones who want to, be the stars, but everybody's not going to be, the Michael Jordans or the Beyoncés or whatever. But for those who are really good at their craft, how do we support them locally here?
Go ahead.
I remember before I came to Philadelphia, I love Wikipedia, by the way. And I would go on Wikipedia and read things, and I read things about, I believe it was called the Black Lily and the 5 Spot. and places like that. And there was places that all of these artists would go, and they would come to Philly, and they would have a show, and it would, you'd have some Philly artists, you might have another artist on it, but then everybody would go to this spot, and it would be this really cool spot. You could have people who don't want to be huge going to these places, but you'd also have these huge people here. So it would bring this draw. Yeah. And when you have people to support the artists here, they have that platform, and then you have the people bringing people, and then you have a whole interest. And we can create those things again and have radio playing people's songs. It just brings a whole interest and draw to this city to create that infrastructure.
Same thing. I mean, I think that just more support for the artists, to do different things. That would help. I know there's one thing that was been talked about as far as even just parking, people unloading, like those types of things. When I perform, when I come to Philly and I perform, I bring my band, I feel bad because, first of all, I'm doing a free show, and then they have to pay for parking, they have to unload the equipment, like they have to pay, out of their pocket for a show that, what I mean?
It costs them.
Yeah, so it's not really inviting, what I mean, to do a show, and it's hard, it's hard to be in those types of situations. So just the support of the city and something as simple and small as that would just help a lot of people just want to do more things, want to be out and about. And a lot of events that happen, everybody doesn't want to be the big celebrity, everybody doesn't end up being the big celebrity, but that doesn't mean that we all can't come and perform at the same venues, and some of us make it far, and some of us become writers of those artists, and it's a community. It creates a family type of infrastructure that that's needed here, and that would cause more artists to want to be here, want to kind of embark on a lot of the things that are going on in the city.
I would just add maybe if, because if you're here and you're doing a show in a community and, you're putting money out of your pocket, then that's something that, we want to support. But I don't know that you need help if you don't, if no one tells us that you need help.
Right.
And so, maybe the commission could also be a way for us to have that sort of exchange of information that, you're coming, you're performing, and, is there a way that, some of the incidentals could be, covered so that there's not a net loss to you?
Yeah.
So that's something that maybe we could,
they just want to have fun and come perform. A lot of my band members, they want to have fun, but then it becomes like stressful just because, you can't find a spot to park, or you're getting hassled to unload and park, so it's just.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are things I think Councilman O can help us with.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for your testimony. I'll ask the clerk to call the next panel.
David Silver, Stephanie Seipel, and George Miller.
And I understand George Miller is going to get here a little later. I think we might be just about wrapped up by the time he gets here. And I understand that Stephanie Seipel has to leave, so I will ask her to begin the testimony by identifying herself for the record and then providing your testimony.
Hi, afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So my name is Stephanie Seipel, and I've been working in the music industry for about 17 years. I've lived in several different places. I worked for most major labels, Epic, Columbia, the Sony family, the BMG family, RCA Jive, and some of their subsidiaries in Atlanta. I worked out of Florida and managed that state for those labels for quite some time, and also traveled managing national branded tours for a few years. And now my home, which is my original home, is back here in the Philadelphia area. I have an office and a home in Fishtown, and I now work more in the independent music space than with the major labels as freelance for myself. So with that, I've spent a lot of time working with a lot of community projects. I helped David O out last year with the PHLI project. I've worked with most community CDCs and districts, Center Cities District, Head House District, the Kensington Community CDC, with different festivals and community projects, music projects, if you will, and any type of fairs and festivals. And what I've really found, I think the biggest thing is the disconnect. When these separate entities in different communities here are trying to put events together. They kind of get caught up in their own bubbles. They don't know what other community CDCs or districts are doing necessarily, or where they can find artists, or even that they should pay artists. I feel like the last conversation every time we walk into a meeting where we're helping a community put together some sort of a festival, music is kind of the afterthought. And then once it is, they don't realize that musicians just want to come and play for free, and like we've discussed, pay for parking or find parking. They make it not only something that you're going to volunteer your time, but you're also going to take all the trouble out to load up all that gear, figure out a way to park, figure out a way to load it in, and etc. So myself and my team have been big flag flyers of walking into those meetings and saying, no, you've got a budget. Everyone else is getting paid. Musicians need to get paid as well. So what I feel is that a lot of musicians are getting burnt out. They're looking for opportunity, but they're looking for paid opportunity. And I feel like most paid opportunities continue to dwindle away. And with that, a lot of other things that's been brought up today is just recognition. I mean, I went to the Walk of Fame gala last night at the Fillmore, which was wonderful. The mayor was there. There was a lot of love in the room. We celebrated the roots, and we celebrated mostly older artists, which is fantastic. But I think that there's a lot of new artists here that are getting signed, and the word nurture was brought up earlier. I think that that's really important. We're not nurturing these artists, and when they're getting signed and touring the U.S., and Rolling Stone is writing about them and saying that they're from Philly, they're getting recognition from Rolling Stone, but the city has no idea that they're even doing that. So I think that kind of making these artists instill Philadelphia pride and saying, hey, we're proud of you, and maybe you're not on the Walk of Fame yet, but we want to include you in maybe some sort of website or portal that is part of this task force that is recognizing you, so that when you're on the road, you want to say, yes, I'm from the city of Philadelphia. And what's happening is we're tearing down our history, as we've discussed. I played a major role in Sigma Sound Studios in trying to save that building. I worked with its third owners after Joe Tarsia. We were working with the bank very religiously to try and find ways to save that building. And I actually came to the city several times to discuss this with several different people, and no one knew where to go or where to find help to try and save Sigma Sound. So again, I think the biggest thing is just the disconnect, and bringing this task force in will help all of these type of issues come through one main channel, so that we can convey to you what's happening on the streets and in the field, and what is important to artists to make Philadelphia musicians and music industry want to stay in the city. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. Would you identify yourself for the record and provide us with your testimony?
Sure. My name is David Silver. I am the founder of a business incubator for local creatives and artists in the city. I went to Temple University. I've been living in the city of Philadelphia for 7 years. And in that time, I've curated over 200 local shows for musicians at over 40 local venues and shops, and spotlighted over 2,000 local musicians in that time. As at the previous hearing in September, my main talking points were to focus on rebuilding the structure of our music industry. As Ryan Schwab mentioned similarly, creating a more effective business infrastructure for artists and business to thrive and to keep them here in Philadelphia to continuously build and create that revenue here that's being spent locally. In order for the local government to get involved with this process towards improvement, it starts with having a delegated focus group of individuals who can pursue government initiatives on behalf of the Committee of the Creative Economy and also the City of Philadelphia. In simple terms, bringing a group of individuals together to solely focus on the government's involvement with improving the local music industry, a task force. When you identify the necessary people, we begin to understand in greater detail the type of impact that could be had when you align our government with the local music industry. The type of impact that we're referring to will result in our brightest talents making the decision to work, live, and stay in our city versus living and moving elsewhere to conduct their business, which they're going to conduct for the rest of their career. Just for an example, we can take a hypothetical musician that is on the cusp of stardom, that is in the city, but they are struggling financially, and they're not getting the support they believe they deserve from their city. If there was a local committee here focused on bridging the government with our local heartbeat of our underground music scene, they can be introduced to more grants that they were not aware of, or just more opportunities that the task force would understand versus it not being there at all. That musician providing that grant gives them the ability to stay in the career and nourish their career and potentially make it here in the city, and the whole time having so much gratitude for it happening and that word spreading. There's currently a buzz in the air about Philadelphia, and thankfully for the majority of that, it's for the right reasons. It's becoming a destination point for the entire world, and people or companies are coming here to build. Let's keep the momentum alive and moving forward by showing that while we want people to come here, we also take care of our own first and foremost, starting from the inside out. A music task force puts more ears on the streets to discover greater opportunities for our city to take it to new heights. This is a greater understanding of initiatives that are progressing in Philadelphia's music space, and have our task force suggest potential grant opportunities or alternative city involvement to the various initiatives that are happening in our music space. This task force has the direct focus to analyze current city funding and seek additional or alternative opportunities. This task force has the ability to revisit past city laws and suggest amendments that could positively impact the local community. We talked about things like discounted parking and extended curfew for our nightlife and other similar circumstances, essentially creating a stronger heartbeat in our local government to advance the business infrastructure for our local community. This can be looked at in a similar way as we looked at the local technology scene. Our goal is to bring innovative technology companies to build in Philadelphia opposed to other cities. Why not the same for music companies? Let's make Philadelphia an attractive place to launch a music business. Keeping the community in mind from all angles and realizing that restructuring our music industry can positively impact our local economy. This is why I believe that we should create a music task force here from our local government. Thank you very much for your time and your pursuit to make Philadelphia's music industry a thriving place once again.
All right, thank you very much. There are no questions. I'll ask the clerk to call up the last panel. Well, the last panel is a written testimony panel, so we're done with our expert testimony. We do have one person who has signed up to make public comment, and I would ask the clerk to read the name of our public speaker.
Paul Robinson.
It's nice and formal. Thank you for letting me come here today. I would first like to really thank Councilman David O. for having this setting, because this is...
Could you please state your name for the record? They're going to record it. Thank you very much.
My name is Paul Robinson. I am a current student at the University of the Arts under the MBET program. What I've noticed so far, first of all, this is a great learning experience because, for one, I didn't even know this was going on. One thing that I think is definitely an issue is that for a student that goes to a major Philadelphia school, especially in the arts, and also dealing with students from Drexel University, Temple University, I'm the only student here. This is the future of the music industry, yet there's only one student here, one future person that's working in this. And that's a problem. And it's not because they don't want to do it. It's because they don't know about it. There's no announcements in the schools. There's no connection to these schools, because these are the areas where these musicians are coming out of. And not just musicians, but also your producers, your entrepreneurs, your lawyers. All these people are the ones that are being to be directly involved with the music industry, and I don't understand why there's not a connection with that. Also, another thing is that there's not a connection as far as the bigger music industry heads with Philadelphia and the city and the students as well, as far as the upcoming artists, because most of these people that I saw talk today, this is the first time that I've seen any of them or heard about them and their interest in this. You know, there's a lot of projects around the city such as PHL Live, there's Old City Fest, there's Outfest. All these venues and and festivals that are happening, yet there's no connection. They're like one-offs instead of one thing that leads to the other. You know, there has to be some type of future project. There needs to be a bigger project after the next one. So that way, people will have an interest to come back to the city because they know there's something bigger coming along the way. You know, and I think as a student, this is my first year at University Arts, and yet the last time that I came here, there was a gentleman by the name of Robert M. Penn, and he is the head of business operations over at Comcast. I'm talking with him right now to create a festival called Philly Fest, which is solely dedicated to making sure that we celebrate the culture of Philadelphia and the music scene, working with groups like The Roots and Hall & Notes and bringing them in as the headliners and using local openers that are only Philadelphia artists to show that this is what we had before and this is what is coming up and this is what's going to be the sound of Philadelphia from here on out. And I think there needs to be a development of that, of other people like me that want to do these events and want to keep moving forward.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming, for testifying, sharing your thoughts with us. Are there any comments or questions? Okay. I'll start with Councilman Bass.
Well, I just wanted to say the recurring theme that I'm getting, because like I said, I'm not a musician, is that it's hard to make it in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking that, they should change the song. The song, you can make it in New York, you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. But in Philadelphia, we make it hard. We want you to be tough. So that's why we make it so hard now. But it really is resonating that it's hard to do it in Philadelphia. So, I just thank you for the testimony, for everyone who's testified today. I think we get it. We get it. Thank you.
Councilman,
Thank you.
Yes, we do get it. And how did you hear about this? Because I'm struck by, it's important that we have young people like you, A, who want to be engaged, and B, want to be engaged. So help me understand how you heard about this.
Well, my professor, Mr. Eric Sabo, he is the guy that's pretty much been telling me about all these events and making sure I'm on top of these. Honestly, I was in one of my other professors' offices just doing homework. He ran into me and said, PJ, there's a thing going on today, right in 30 minutes. Do you want to go?
Wow.
And I said, I'm going.
Oh, kudos to your professor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And thank you for showing up. And what it suggests for us as a legislative body is that we have to figure out some mechanism by which we alert students across the city on any and all issues that we're reckoning with, so that for those who want to have some input, have the opportunity to do that. So that's a challenge for us that we need to figure out. So thank you for showing up. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, that concludes, this portion of our work at hand. I would like to recognize that the presence of Councilwoman Janie Blackwell, and with that, we have a quorum. And so, there being no further witnesses, this concludes the public hearing of the Committee on Global Opportunities and Creative Innovative Economy. We will now convene the public meeting of the committee. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Blondell Reynolds-Brown for a motion to amend the bill.
Mr. Chairman, I move that bill number 150708 be amended.
Second.
Thank you. The motion to amend Bill 15078 has been made and properly seconded there. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. The ayes have it, and the motion to amend carries. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Blondell Reynolds-Brown for a motion on the bill as amended.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move that bill number 150708, as amended, be reported out of this committee with a favorable recommendation so as to permit the first reading of this bill at the next scheduled session of council.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that Bill 150708, as amended, be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation and the rules suspended to permit first reading at our next session of council. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. The ayes have it. The motion to amend the motion carries. Bill number 150708 08 will be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation and rules suspended to permit first reading at our next session of council. This concludes the business of this committee. Thank you all very much, and we will conclude to the call of the chair. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman.